Here's a tough one for you. The Macan case. You don't have to give your opinion on it if you don't want to, but do you have a very strong, do you sway one way?
I've looked at footage. My personal opinion is
there's a famous case, Chris Watts.
Yeah.
He's smiling in that press conference.
I mean,
he's
that's
creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch that, I mean, that's terrible, wasn't it? I mean, stuck him down in the oil.
Yeah.
I worked on that for a lot of press in the States, and I mean, he was a dead giveaway straight away.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, he put his hands on his head all the time, which is that's what we call a pacifying gesture. Any hand-to-mouth gesture is self-reassurance. So in America, like a pacifier is a dummy. We call it a dummy.
Yeah.
So that's why they call it a pacifying gesture. So anything where we sort of self-hug ourselves, anything where we go, it's to reassure ourselves.
What, like rubbing the face?
Rubbing the face, call it a hand-to-mouth gesture. Going like that.
Touching the ear.
Touching the ear, rubbing the chin, Some that can be evaluation if it's in the right context.
What, these things are good, positive reinforcement?
Yeah, so if you're sat at a lecture or something in a talk, that's good because that's now you're interested. But in the context of, the police were searching the house looking for his missus.
Yeah.
He was sort of making lots of gestures like this, and like you say, when he's talking to the press, it's just not normal. He like you say, he's smiling.
Yeah. There's a bit when they ask him about his little girls who have only gone missing 12 hours ago, and he goes, so and so was 4, and so and it's the past tense.
The past tense,
which seems like such an obvious giveaway, doesn't it?
And also, people will shake the head or nod the head in complete contradiction. So do you know anything about that? And they'll go no.
While they're nodding.
So I'm on this show, obviously, on Amazon Prime with Judge Rinder.
Yeah.
Interrogation Secret. So season 2's out now. Give it a plug. And we've got 10 different convicted killers.
Are you working behind the scenes, or are you on?
No, I'm on screen.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. So there's me and a guy called Paul Meary. Hi, Paul. Who's ex Thames Valley Police. But I'm not the main body language guy on there.
Right.
So some of it's really it is chilling.
Yeah.
Some of it, the coldness of it. There's one case where this woman, she kills this kid and puts her in a suitcase, and she works at this church, and she's got her in the boot of a car while she's gone to church and things like this, and then she's in the interview room, and for the first part you think, God, she's quite plausible, but then it all starts to unravel.
Yeah. I
worked on a very famous case in India. It's on I think it's been transmitted already. It's a 4-part documentary, and it's India's biggest double murder, and they're basically this husband and wife couple were doctors, and I'll send you a link to it. They were accused of murder. So the daughter and one of 3 servants were murdered overnight. One of they both had the throat slit. The police stormed in and just trampled the crime scene. So it was a real pig's ear, basically.
Yeah.
Those 2 got arrested and eventually went to prison. And then I was contacted by a production company, and then several of the forensic people were contacted. So I was sent all this CCTV interview footage and footage from home movies, things like that. They'd already had a body language person look at it, and when she was being interviewed, the mother, she always adopted this posture.
Right.
So psychology would say that's defensive. Her shoulders are in, blah blah blah. But they didn't take the time to look at the home movie footage from years ago. She's done that gesture since she was 14, the mother.
Oh.
So it was an irrelevant gesture.
Here's a tough one for you. The Macan case.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to ask because it's like no one really knows. But you don't have to give your opinion on it if you don't want to, but do you have a very strong, do you sway one way? A lot of people out there are on the side of the Macans and think somebody's kidnapped their daughter.
I'll answer that, and I'll also give you this extra bit of information. There's a guy called Peter Hyatt. Peter Hyatt is ex-FBI. He specialises in a thing called statement analysis. So I did his sort of online course. He analysed hours and hours and hours and hours of interview footage. His assertion is, yes, they're involved. I've looked at footage. My personal opinion is something's very wrong with a lot of that, with a lot of the gestures and things. I'm not saying they've done it.
Yeah.
So don't sue me if you're listening.
Yeah.
But from a non-verbal perspective, there's a lot of things that are very incongruent.
Yeah.
That's probably the question I get asked the most.
Is it really?
Yeah, about that. But yeah. But
Wow.
but yeah, I've looked at a lot of footage.
Yeah.
Have you looked at many like unsolved cases where you're thinking, how has this not been?
Well, that's the thing. You can look at historic stuff. I mean, I even got asked to look at, like, Princess Diana interviews, and because a lot of the micro-expression stuff wasn't around, before sort of the 80s and 90s. So you can look at stuff now historically and go, shit, look at that.
They were already showing.
They were showing those signs. The famous case was the guy that developed all this stuff, Paul Ekman. He used to be a psychiatrist in New York in the 80s, and he had a client that had been sectioned and was in for a couple of years. And long story short, she kept asking for a weekend pass to go and visit family and walk in the park. And after, so many years, all the staff agreed that she'd kind of reached a point where she could. And what he used to do, he used to videotape them. It'd be in the 80s, videotape all the sessions. So they all agreed they'd let her out for a weekend. On the Sunday, she jumped off the bridge and killed herself. And it wasn't until many years later that he'd conducted all of his research. He used to rewatch all of his tapes. And what was happening with this woman is when she was saying, I feel great, I'm feeling so much better about myself and blah, 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 she was flashing massive sadness. So the typical sadness expression of where your eyes are down, but you don't see it. If it's like a fifth of a second, if you're not looking for it, you won't see it. It's like the gorilla. You only see intention drives attention.
Yeah.
So if you intend to see something, so I used to do a funny thing in the street with it when I was doing the hypnosis is I could make someone deaf. I'd turn the volume down in their head and they won't be able to hear anything. Now they've done that to themselves. I've not done that. So I had a whole different career as a stage hypnotist as well.
We need you back for a part 2, Darren.
Yeah. So there's a lot of clever things you could do. So right now, if you guys grip your hands together very, very tightly, and then in a second, but not yet, I'm going to actually get your 2 index fingers and bring them apart. Okay, but keep gripping your hands together, and what you'll find is that when you bring your fingers up, I'm going to snap my fingers, and the more that you try and keep those fingers apart, the more compelled they'll be to move together like 2 very, very strong magnets. So the more you try and fight the process, the more you realise that your fingers are that weak. Okay, so keep your hands gripped together, bring your fingers up like that, and then go closer and 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 closer.
So strange.
And then what you'll find is you'll be able to release your hands now. So that's what's called a convincer. So you get an audience, and then you'd do different things. You do 4 or 5 convincers, and then the ones that
susceptible,
you'd get them on stage. What Paul Macan used to do.